I want to be real here because any business model that doesn't have downside is a scam. I always talk about what I think the downside is, but what do you think is the downside about rank and rent?
The downside. Well, I could tell people what I think their biggest obstacles are going to be, and there's two of them. Number one is,
those go hand in
I mean,
hand.
there's no downside to me. Number one, okay, I love this model, but okay. For someone coming in, the two major hurdles that you're going to have to overcome from my model are, number one, you're going to have to learn technical SEO, which encompasses a lot of things, keyword research, on page, off page, design, WordPress, like ball it all into one thing. Getting a site to generate leads means either, you do your model, but in my model, we rank it organically. That's tough for some people because they don't know these skills. They can be learned. And if you're committed, you will. The next one is, once you're there, being able to sell or get the deal on the site. And those are always the two things. And from my experience and the people that I teach, so far, people are much better at learning how to rank a site than they are at learning how to sell them. So if you beat the first obstacle, that's the easy one. Now you got to learn how to sell the sites. Those are easy too, but it's a skill. The downside to rank and rent, I don't know, man. I've gone back and forth with rank and rent. I went into it, I left it, I did this, that. I love it. There's no downside to this business except for you got to commit.
Here's what I think is the downside. And I love what you said. I agree with that. And I would also say with the technical aspect, because I was somebody who didn't even know what a domain was. Like, I knew that there was something called a website, www, but 7 years ago, I didn't know that's what a domain was. So I was not technical at all. But I believe that if you get good at picking the right city niche combination, you don't have to be perfect at the technical side because your competition's so low. So, but it does take some learning. But I think if you get good at that, then you can curb a lot of that. And I also think on the sales aspect, if you send the leads in advance, as we do, it carries you, and you can do a lot of things wrong and still get the deal. Yeah. But when I say downside, here's the thing that I think is the biggest downside with this. The fact that it's so easy to get started is a great thing. But on the other hand, because it doesn't cost that much money to get started, because anyone listening right now could literally start their own rank and rent business today, people don't treat it like a business. They treat it as a little hobby, a little side thing. And that, in my opinion, is the biggest downside, because if you were going to use this example all the time, if you were going to go start a Jimmy John's or a McDonald's, you would need $500,000 or $1.2 million cash. You'd have to sign a lease. You'd have to hire employees. You have to get insurance. You have to tell all your friends and family. You'd have to actually commit because you have to make it work. And we get into this and we're like, oh, I spent a couple $100 getting a site up. It doesn't work. And so then we get people that are like, yeah, that business model doesn't work. It's like, how long did you try it? How much effort did you do? And did you even take any training on how to do it? Or did you just assume by watching one YouTube video that Herc put up or I put up, you should be making millions of dollars? Moron.
I don't see that as a downside of the model, though. I see that as a downside of the person.
No, I totally agree. But what I'm saying is, like, that's the biggest thing that I've seen in this is, like, it's a great thing that it's so easy, but I truly do wish there was more red tape to get started because it would weed out some of the schmucks. But anyway,
what I've learned from software development? Here's what I've learned because software development has taught me a lot about everything as well. And it's that there's so many people that will buy a product and never use it. They will never even try. They'll get sold on the idea, or they love the idea and they'll buy it and then they'll shelf it. And they're always like, yeah, I'm going to get around to that. Yeah, I'm going to get around to that. You know what I mean? Like, I could tell you our software is the greatest thing on the planet, and that if you just use it and follow these 4 simple instructions, your website's going to rank really, really high. And I'm going to make a bunch of sales by doing that, because number one, it's true, but there's just people that are just going to do nothing, right? And they're going to be like, yeah, that software is a piece of shit. And they're going to leave a negative review.
Yeah.
Right? Or they'll try it.
Meanwhile, you've got people that are crushing it with using your same software that are raving fans of it.
Exactly. So it's like, it's back to that 1 in 1,000 thing for me again. It's like, look, you only need one person in 1,000, or that 10,000 or 100,000 to say that something works and to have it work. And then if it works, it works. Like, you know what I mean? And I don't see a downside. I think the fact that this business is easy should be encouraging to people.
Yeah, no. And that's why I say it's like a catch-22, because if I make my list of like why you should get into it, why it's one you should look at, it's because it's easy to get into, but I also think it attracts shitty people.